We are back with the Right Path to Retirement podcast right here on Apple, Spotify, rightpathwm.com, wherever you're hearing that. We're so glad that hopefully you're subscribed by now and have those notifications turned on. These episodes coming out roughly every 2 weeks. I know you're waiting in pregnant anticipation for this next one. After the last one, we talked about the importance of financial distinctions. Today, we're going to get into what a first meeting is like. And before we do that, I need to introduce the person you'll be meeting with, because it's not me. I'm your co-host, Doug Turnbull. No, it is Jimmy Lynn, who's the president, founder, financial advisor, certified financial planner, in fact, at Right Path Wealth Management. Jimmy and the team would love for you to make the phones jump 702-805-7000, 702-805-7000, or go to rightpathwm.com. Jimmy, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. Just trying to get through, get my schedule set up for the summertime, with a lot of mid-year check-ins that we have coming up. So trying to get that while scheduling in the kids and maybe a little family time. So a lot to balance right now.
Well, for sure. And I know it's got to be tough because it gets a little more extemporaneous in the summer. Sometimes you got to figure out ways to do this remote or which office, because you got two different offices. Which office are we going to be in? I'm sure tough to manage the kids' schedule and childcare, all that different stuff.
Well, right? And then also, it's summertime. And so although these mid-year check-ins are important, I think that for our clients, the last thing they want to do is, have their mid-year check-in. They want to go take that cruise that they've been planning for, which I encourage. But yeah, we do work around it.
Right. Yeah. So they're like, hey, I'd love to do my mid-year check-in, but I'm available these 2 days the whole summer.
Right. Or we can do a remote while they're on their Caribbean cruise.
Oh, that would be good. It would be good to just like link up with somebody who's, boiling in the hot tub there, right? on their sixth margarita, and they're like, let's put it all back on. Okay, but I want to say that, because we're having a laugh about it, but the importance of the mid-year check-in, my goodness. Think about if you are, especially, and I know the age varies a little bit, but roughly 73 or over, you got the required minimum distribution that's due December 31st. You don't want to wait till December to plan for that, because that could be a pretty number, right? If you're, tax prep is year round versus tax planning being in a season, but you can take steps now that could potentially help the tax burden later. And I'm just thinking of two different things, not to mention changes in the market. Gosh, Jimmy, there's all sorts of reasons that somebody should meet with their advisor, not just on December 15th, right before they go on Christmas vacation.
You actually hit the nail right on the head. And it shocks me that, whenever I talk to people where they may be working with advisors and said, well, when's the last time you talked to them? Well, we talk to them once a year. And for me, that cadence doesn't seem like you can keep up with life. So we have several touch points throughout the year, but we always encourage our clients to at least meet with us twice a year so we can have that mid-year check-in. We typically will talk to our clients more than that, but at a minimum, we want to at least be able to, see what's going on, because, 12 months, just too much can go on. And like you had mentioned, there's too many little milestones within a year that you got to address you need that mid-year check-in.
Oh, for sure. So if you want to schedule maybe your first ever check-in with Jimmy and the team, all right, or a second opinion, or whichever it is, maybe you've had your mid-year check and you didn't like something that you saw on your plan, or maybe you've had trouble getting in touch with your advisor, call up Jimmy and the team, 702-805-7000, or go to rightpathwm.com. Set up that first appointment. You can click the contact button there if you don't want to make an extra phone call, and they could call you, or however it works, or do a virtual meeting, however it is. And what I want to talk about specifically today, Jimmy, I say what I wanted to. It's your show. What you told me you wanted to talk about is what that first meeting is like. So somebody is just completely raw here. We're not talking about somebody that's been with you for 5 or 10 years. Someone's hearing this the first time and they decide to either call or hit the contact button. Then what happens?
Yeah, I did want to talk about this, Doug, just because I think it's important for people to know what they're walking into, right? Because there's a lot of noise out there. I mean, last time I went to Hawaii, I had 50 different people trying to pull me into a timeshare presentation. Right. So you gotta, and they entice you with that, free dinner or whatever the case may be. And so I want to make sure that people's past experiences, either with work meeting with an advisor or an insurance agent or a timeshare presentation or whatever the case may be, I don't want that to taint people's view of what this first meeting will look like. So I'd like to kind of just map that out so people are really comfortable if they decide they want to reach out to us. But essentially, this first meeting is really all about them. Most people are going to discover us either through an educational workshop or they're going to listen to this podcast. And maybe they've been listeners for a while and now they're finally ready to make the move to come in and meet with us. Well, I got news for you, Doug. Most people are not listening to this podcast for the entertainment value. Right? We're not about to get a Netflix show. People are listening to us or they're attending our seminar. Like I make the joke, like you guys on a beautiful Las Vegas day are sitting in this windowless room listening to a stranger talk about taxes, right? So we got to ask ourselves, why are they putting themselves through that? Is generally speaking because most of these people are generally going to be those individuals that are nearing retirement. They're within 5 years of retirement, or maybe they just recently retired. And so the decisions they make during this kind of 10-year span are going to be critical in how their retirement ends up, how much money they're going to have left, how much income they have, how much taxes they're paying. A lot of these results are going to be based on kind of the decisions they make during this period of time. And so that's why they're listening to these podcasts. That's why they're attending library seminars or dinner seminars. So when they come into the office, I know that there's a reason why they're coming into the office. They don't just want to waste their time coming in because they have nothing else to do, right?
Right.
So when they come in, they may be coming in with statements and our discovery document. We push all of that aside. I want to know about them, right? I want to know what their history is, what they did for a living, how did they accumulate these assets? What kind of hard work did they do? What business did they run? What's important to them? Who are they planning for? Do they have kids? Do they have grandkids? Because there's always a why. Numbers on a statement, they're just numbers on a statement. They may be tools that they can use to achieve their why, but I really want to boil down to where did they come from? What was that hard work they did to get to this point? And now what do they want their future to look like? That's the most important thing to me to break down before we get into any numbers. And then we want to really nail down what is their concern. Because again, people have worked hard, they have their why, but there's always something in their head that they're trying to just wrap their minds around. It could be like, Jimmy, do I have enough? I may have $500,000, $1 million, $2 million in my retirement accounts, but I watch the news all the time. I see my accounts go up and down. Every other day, I hear that there's going to be a war somewhere, and I am just terrified to turn off that income and then realize that these accounts are all I have to last the rest of my life. Other people are like, Jimmy, I don't want to pay this much in taxes. I've heard so many stories about how taxes are going to eat up everything that I have, which, Doug, could be true for a lot of these people, but that's why they're coming in. That's why they're asking. Or I've heard that Social Security is going to go away. What am I going to do with that? So we want to kind of not only understand who they are, but also understand what their concerns are. And that literally, that is going to make up the bulk of what our meeting is really just getting down to the nitty gritty of why are you attending these events? What are you concerned about? And from there, that's the starting point. Now let's dig into some of these numbers. Right. So whenever everyone attends, we usually, when they come to a seminar or they schedule a meeting here, we're going to send them a discovery form. Just kind of tells us a little bit about them. We encourage them to fill out that discovery form as much as they feel comfortable. The more information, obviously, the better. And then bring that in and we'll review it together. If they don't have it filled out, I tell all these people, come in anyways. We're all busy. So if you don't have time to fill out that discovery form, we'll go through it together. I'll ask all the questions that I need to know just to kind of understand where you sit today and see if where you want to go is achievable or what tweaks you might have to make. But we'll go through a discovery doc, kind of really understands the income sources that they have, who are they planning for, and what are the assets do they have available to them. We'll go through some of their statements. We always tell people, you have 401k, you have an IRA, you have some annuities. Bring those statements in, because one of the things we emphasize is let us give you a second opinion, whether you're a do-it-yourselfer or you're working with another advisor. You need to know, what are the fees that you're paying in some of this stuff? right? People don't understand that they may be paying an advisor, 1.5%, but then they may be paying, another 2% within a variable annuity or some type of mutual fund. So we have the ability to look at a lot of that stuff. But when we get these statements, we're going over the discovery form. I wanted all the listeners to know they don't have to make any decisions. When they're coming in, they're not signing their life away. We have one goal at the end of every meeting that we have. The goal is either they feel comfortable with where they're at, they enjoyed our conversation together, we shake hands, we're friends, we part ways. So that's one option that they can go. The only other option, Doug, is that they decide, you know what, and I'll tell you, this is the majority of the time, this is how it ends up, is we will look at their situation. We'll see that they're in a position where their goals probably be achieved, but we just need to give them more information. We got to let them know where they sit today and see if there's a way forward for us to provide them with some additional advice. If that makes sense, that second option, what we'll generally do is the only decision we have to make is decide, do we want to schedule that second meeting? That second meeting is still part of our discovery process. There's no fee, no obligation for it. But what that allows us to do is then utilize our team that we have behind us. We have a back office that allows, we do things like Morningstar reports to do in-depth analysis of their portfolios. We'll create a retirement plan to identify what type of income that they can generate. So that's kind of a secondary meeting that we'll have if it makes sense. And so generally speaking, like I said, the majority of the people go towards that second meeting because, of course, they just want to find out more about how they sit. Again, there's no obligation there. If somebody decides that they don't want to take that second meeting, I always ask them, if you don't want that second meeting, it probably means either you already have a solid written income plan, you have a solid written tax plan, your investments are growing safely, and you know every fee that you're paying within all your investments. And in the rare case that makes sense, that those all those boxes are checked, typically what we'll do, we'll shake hands, part ways. And again, I always enjoy these meetings anyways because I'm always learning and listening to stories. So that's part of why I do this, because I enjoy that process. But majority of the time, all those boxes are not checked. There's something like, I don't know exactly what fees I'm paying, or I don't know how safe my money is. And so if that's the case, we always kind of decide, okay, well, why don't we take that next step and just schedule the second meeting? But in a nutshell, that is our first meeting process, is really just getting to know the clients deeply, understanding their concerns, kind of getting an overview of their current situation, and then making that one decision. Does it make sense to kind of take this relationship one step further and scheduling that second meeting, or do we part way as friends? And that's it.
Right. And also it's important for you to be able to decide it too, not just for the client or the person walking in the office. It's important because there's only so much time in your day too, right? So if you think somebody is, not really all in or something like that, I mean, it's something where you can look at and say, hey, I'm just getting the vibe from you that you may not be ready to settle and really lock into a plan. It's sort of like if you had and I'm not calling you a personal trainer, but if there was a personal trainer at a gym and the person just came in and half did the jumping jacks, half did the push-ups, was not giving full effort on the cardio, whatever it is. Obviously, I don't work out much because I'm probably not saying it right. But it would be the same thing. It's like, well, what's the point of our time?
That's a great point. No matter what the advice is, it takes two to tango, right? We got to make sure that we're a good fit for them. We also make sure that the client will be a good fit. It's someone that we want to work with, that we'll enjoy meeting on an ongoing basis, because we have these frequent touch points. So we have to make sure that this is something that they are ready to commit to, because there's going to be a little bit of work on their end, a lot of work on our side. And so we have to be aligned in the goals. So that's a great point, Doug, that it's not always a great fit, and that's okay. Sometimes people are not ready to move forward, and we work at their pace.
Right. Well, if you want to find out if Jimmy and the team are the right fit, okay, be sure and get in touch. 702-805-7000. There's a reason you're listening right now, okay? Maybe it's on autoplay or something like that. But more than likely, there's a reason you're listening, and it doesn't hurt. A phone call is complimentary, right? 702-805-7000, or you can go to rightpathwm.com. Check out their Facebook page as well. They put up interesting content on there, including promoting this podcast as well. We do appreciate that, but you can find this podcast again on all the podcatchers and on the media page at rightpathwm.com. And be sure, if somebody you think, hey, they should get a second opinion on that. They told me something wild that they were doing, or they just don't have any advisor and they seem kind of lost about things. Send them the link to this, and then they could kind of get a taste and see if Jimmy Lynn and the Right Path Wealth Management team are the right fit. Well, Jimmy, thanks for spending your time explaining that. I think people are going to feel hopefully a little more comfortable with trying to call and get in touch and then seeing what the process is like. Yeah,
I'm excited, and I encourage anyone, just take that first step. The meeting is really just two people getting to know each other. So please reach out, 702-805-7000 if you're kind of in that situation we're talking about, a few years from retirement or just recently entering retirement.
For sure. And also rightpathdwm.com, hit the contact button. Well, we thank Jimmy Lynn for his time there. Jimmy, of course, president, founder, certified financial planner at Right Path Wealth Management. We also thank our producer, Rob Scott, for getting this all stitched together and cutting out the parts where I mess up mainly. It's usually me, not Jimmy, okay? But be sure and getting that published and everything. Rob, you're great. And also thanks to our audience for listening in too. We thank you very much. We appreciate you listening to Jimmy and the team. And this has been the Right Path to Retirement podcast. Stay cool this hot summer. We'll talk to you here again very soon.
Insurance products are offered through the insurance business Right Path Wealth Management. Right Path Wealth Management is also an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through Impact Partnership Wealth, LLC, a registered investment advisor. IPW does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by Right Path Wealth Management are not subject to investment advisory requirements. Investing involves risk, including potential loss of principal. Any reference to the protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing carrier. This radio podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It's not intended to be used as the sole basis for a financial decision, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual's situation. Right Path Wealth Management is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during the show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Right Path Wealth Management.